Can you spell it out and then your title?
Okay. My pen name is R.M. Almonte, and that's spelled A-L-M-O-N-T-E.
So I was kind of like reading up on you, and I see that most of the stuff that you do is you kind of label yourself as a metaphysical author. Am I correct in that? Awesome. Can you tell me like what that means, and then can you dive into your newest book and what that's about?
Okay, so I usually all my books are metaphysical sci-fi, and where it's very different from a lot of authors. I'm probably closer to like Pablo Coelho, except I do sci-fi. He doesn't. If you're familiar with him, he did the book The Alchemist, and he's the reason why I write. And what metaphysical means in this sense, or at least the way I use it, is I dive more into the consciousness when I write. My characters, most of them all come from some kind of trauma, not the best upbringing, just things I grew up around in New York City, and things I see around me, and even to this day still see around me. So my hope is always that when people pick up my books, their life gets just a little bit better, at least their way of thinking gets a little better, because that's going to always be the key of how you live your life. What circumstances you're born into is not on you, but what you do with your life after you turn a certain age, even as young as like 15, 16, that is all up to you. Like, things are going to happen to you, but how are you reacting to it? How are you growing from that? People are going to pass that you feel that should have not, and probably we're too young, we're too old, or whatever, to pass away. But these things do happen. So how do we react to that? How do we move on? And with that being said, Fog's the Time is my newest book. And it starts off with Maria del Camino from Washington Heights. Not so much now, but when it starts off, it's predominantly Dominican area. And Maria, her brother, is a drug dealer. And he's trying to provide for his new child that's coming. He's, 18 years old, no work, no high school degree. So how else do you make money? So that's what he goes into. And then he's murdered. The night he's murdered, this green fog comes into her house, and something happens, but we're not sure yet. Years later, she goes off to college. The green fog comes back and starts throwing her through different time periods. And then she comes face to face with her brother's killer. Now, when it comes to time travel, where I'm very different is I did a lot of pre-colonial stuff. I'm kind of very tired of the typical time travel places they go to, usually Europe, or after, during the early colonial times, when the Spaniards came and stuff like that. So I did pre-colonial New York City, pre-colonial Dominican Republic, also pre-colonial Nevada, which was really interesting because I was looking into the culture there and what they were like before the Europeans came.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, okay, now you kind of mentioned that you were talking about like you're tired of like the norms, right? And so that's kind of why you're here, because you're trying to break this, like, we're getting used to the digital age, and you mentioned Zoom interviews or Zoom releases. So can you tell me a little about this tour? Like, I know you've completed about, 20 plus states already?
24 states. Yesterday I completed Texas. So one of the main things that I'm finding is I'm talking to people face to face, right? Just like I'm talking to you, and I'm meeting new people and different types of people, and a lot of them from all walks of life and all ages, which actually shocks me, of the type of people that are picking up my books, and all sorts of ethnicities. And when you get that face to face, you get feedback. And you're learning from them. They're learning from you. There's this interchange. But if I'm in a Zoom meeting, doing a Zoom, and I'm just talking, I don't know who's out there. I'm not interacting. I'm not picking up their energy, their vibe. It's hard for them to ask me questions like, oh, how many states you've been to? Or what is it like to be a writer? I want to write too. And I get that a lot. And sometimes I get it from really young kids. And those are my favorite, because I'm like, you're not too young to write. There's no, for writing specifically to become an author, it's not that you have to go to school. school is not the important part. Your tenacity and your will to get over your own insecurities, your own pitfalls, what you think you're not bad at, what you think you're bad at, to get over that. And that constant chatter that you're hearing, this story is not great. You're not a good writer. You're not that great. Maybe we should do something else. Like, don't bother. That constant chatter. And once you do it once, twice becomes easy. 3 times just becomes, wow, this is my 7th book. I'm a college dropout. I know guys with their master's degree in literature never finished their first book. So it doesn't take smarts. It takes tenacity. It takes a drive. Your why. What's your why? Why are you doing this? Why are you writing? And for me, this 50-state book tour has become so important because why am I putting myself out there? It's more comfortable if I just stay at home. But I want to show my son, like, hey, if you want to chase your dreams, this is what it takes. You're seeing Papi doing this. You need to do it. Like, when it's your turn, and I tell them all the time, it's like, hey, you're going to be terrible at this and you're not going to know what you're doing, but you'll figure it out little by little.
Those kinds of human interactions that you were just talking about, like being face to face, do you think like you need those to write the books that you're writing with?
Yeah, because that's the thing about writing. It's life experience all around you. Even though most of my books have to do with time travel or aliens and UFOs, and I've never, to date, I have never yet, interacted with those kind of people. But every day meeting new people, their lifestyle, that goes into the books. People, that I have good experiences with, people I've had bad experiences with, that all goes into the books. And there's always something, for example, where I grew up at wasn't the worst of neighborhoods, but it wasn't the best of neighborhoods. And so there were all sorts of type of people living in my building. And one of them was a family that the mom was highly addicted to crack and the kids were just running crazy. So a lot of that went into my series with my main character, Stevie, in that book, United Earth. And so his upbringing in the beginning of the book really played a high role of what I saw. And even with Maria's brother, when I was 9 years old, my best friend at the time, his uncle was a drug dealer in the Bronx, and he was murdered. The way he was murdered was he was beaten to death, and they just threw him in the garbage can. And when I heard that story, it was just a 9-year-old boy. I was just, this is the 80s. I was blown away, and then when I went to the funeral, and I just saw people freaking out, and it stayed with me all those years. So when I was writing, for a writer, it becomes very emotional for us, and we get a little too attached to our characters. Like, that the book takes a life of their own, it's 100% truth. Do you want to ask the next question, or do you want me to keep flowing?
I mean, if you'd like, if you have more to say, I'm always down to hear it. But, I guess maybe we can move on to a lighter note really quick, because I want to hear more about, like, your experience on this, like, this 50-state tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's been the most memorable moment so far? Is there any
Yesterday actually blew me away. There's been many of them, but yesterday blew me away. There was this girl comes in and I say, hey, how you doing? This is my newest book. And she's like, she knew my name already. She was like, Ramon. And I was like, oh. And she's like, my sister got your book. And I was like, where? She was like, in Seattle, Issaquah. And I was like, oh, Issaquah, Washington. I was like, yeah. And then she was describing her sister. I was like, yeah, I remember your sister. And she was just, she came to find me because she went to Seattle to see her sister, and then read part of the book and found out I was here in Austin. I was in Austin. And that really just blew me away. It was like, wow. When another one was when I first started publishing my first book, which is called Scratching the Cosmic Conscience, this guy emails me and said, man, your book changed me. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like, he was like, I just look at life different. because that one starts off more with a guy who used to be a thug, but starts changing his life and then starts getting in contact with aliens and just everything he goes through. And of course, he goes through tragedy as well. And one of the things that people never really talk about much is like we have our life here and then we're trying to move up constantly. But sometimes this happens. It's like you take 2 steps forward and then you fall back like 4 or 5. And so what do you do when you fall back like that? And it's like, well, that could be a good thing in hindsight. And at the moment, it looks, oh my God, I'm falling apart. But then what you're not noticing is that you just leveled up, but you have to start fresh and clean and almost like rebuild yourself.
Yeah.
So.
And then what's been the biggest challenge in your tour? I mean, even from like just being
the lack of sleep, of course. Going to sleep at 11 o'clock, waking up at 3 in the morning, catching a flight, then getting there, freshening up real quick, going to the bookstore, and interacting with people, and then doing that all over again. And you still like altogether, in the whole week you haven't had 8 hours of sleep. That's a huge challenge. When my business manager is there, it makes it a lot easier because he'll drive most of the way so I could take naps. But when he's not there, I'm driving, and at nighttime especially, you start feeling like you're getting sleepy, and it's like, okay, time to pull over. So that's been a huge challenge. Also, another challenge is sometimes with different bookstores, just having them see the bigger pictures, like, hey, I'm doing 50-state tour, or certain people will like just laugh at it, like, yeah, whatever, like they don't believe me, like, because I thought it was the norm to do 50 states, but it's actually not the norm, not even close. I think on average most authors will do 6 states, and that's a lot. That's called a national tour. But most authors will do New York, Chicago, LA, and we're finished. And I'm over here like 34 stores in. Wow. 34 stores, 24 states. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I only really have one more question, but you seem, and I wasn't sure whether to ask you or not, but I was kind of waiting to see what you were going to say. But for the viewers who are like chasing a kind of like a big goal, you kind of touched on it when you were talking about telling people when to write, anybody can write. But for anybody who has a big goal, like the one that you're doing now, who's maybe they're not getting a lot of sleep and such, do you have any advice for that?
Absolutely. I mean, anybody who's chasing, we all have goals. Mm-hmm. Some of us has just given up on them, or we think we're too small. I don't look like them, or I'm not the same gender, or, I don't have the same lifestyle, or whatever the case may be. Is number one thing you need is your why. Why are you doing this? Because when you have a why, there's a will. There's a way. You'll figure it out, because your why will wake you up. When I'm laying in the hotel room and I've slept like 2 hours, 3 hours, and I'm getting up because I'm thinking of my son. That is my why. It's like, I want my mom to see like, wow, look, he did it. My family members, the people around me, even strangers I don't know, it's like, this guy came from a similar place like me and he did it. Well, he looks like me. That's another one. Like, a lot of the big name authors, they worked hard too, but not many of them look like me or look like us, so, and that's not to say that that's a main part, but it's important when you can say, oh, I could do that too, because changing your mindset, changing your belief system, what you believe you're capable of or able to do, you're not going to know what to do. But we're going to take one step, and you might slip and fall, and you're going to fall many times. You're going to fail. And the most important thing is to fail constantly, because then you're going to figure it out. You're going to try to get better and fail and get better, fail and get better. And then soon you're going to be so far advanced that you're like, wow, how did I even get here?
Beautifully said. Do you have any questions?
No, I think anything I had a question about you answered basically.
You guys have anything else you'd like to add?
I can go for hours. One of the going a little bit on topic because it's what I write about. Pay attention to what your dreams, your actual dreams, are when you at nighttime, what they're telling you, because a lot of times those dreams, they're showing you where you're at emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, whatever you believe in, economically. What kind of neighborhood are you dreaming in? What are you feeling? Who are the people you're interacting? What do they represent? Because sometimes those people, they represent a part of you, or they could represent something bigger. I had dreams where I'm talking to this person and I see this truck and they're playing like some like famous band. I can't even remember what band it was. And I was thinking in my head like, oh, that'd be cool to see my book on that. And this guy turns to me with a flat face and just says, that's gonna happen one day. And in the dream, I just got real emotional. It just was like, really? And he's just looking at me like, why are you, like the look on his face was like, why are you even doubting yourself? Like, yeah, it's gonna happen. You just, because you don't see it. You're working at it, and nothing is happening. And you're working. That's the other part of that. When you're working on your goal, nothing's gonna move for a long time. But centimeter by centimeter, it's moving. You just can't see that you moved anywhere. And, that's one of the things I learned about that dream, though. It's like, okay, things are happening.
That's awesome. Oh my God. That made me a little emotional.
I know. Well, now that we're talking about that, I do have a question. I feel like nowadays, with social media and, doom scrolling, everyone gets a little hesitant and they feel like, at least from like my point of view, what I see on social media, a lot of people are like, well, what's the point? Why do I even need to do this? Why do I need to do that? Do you have a message for those people that are living with that doubt, and they just feel like, what's the point? Why should I even try?
Yeah, like they're just gonna stop me, right? Kind of thing, and they're just, the door's closed, and why would I even care? Or, for me it was, I'm terrible at writing, like grammar actually. When I was younger and I'm a college dropout, what do I know about this, right? And it's when you're on a mission like this, the challenges are there for a reason, right? We're not going to get, if you want to be a marathon runner, well, guess what you have to do? You got to run. And that means you're going to lose your breath a lot until you train your lungs. So those struggles that you're going through are training you, are making you better, are conditioning your mind, especially your mind, because when you put your mind to something, I have no idea how we got to 24 states because I didn't have a job, right, when I started this. And I told myself, like, if I have to go back to a 9 to 5, I am done.
Yeah.
And that day, like, this was probably March or May?
It was, I believe, it
like
was
April.
No, it was June. It was June.
And I said, I was in my balcony in Florida, and I was talking to whatever's out there, and I was like, I know you want me to write. You want me to be a writer. You've been telling me, like, I can see in my dreams and everything for years. Like, I'm not going back to a 9 to 5. Either this is going to work out or I'm going to go do something else. And I told him about it, and he said, dude, let me look at your stuff. And then he starts looking at it. And then he gets me on coast to coast in 24 hours, flat time. And then, I'm like, well, what is my angle? How am I different from everybody else? He's like, dude, no one's ever done 50 states. And so let's do it. I don't know how we're going to pay for it, but let's do it. And it's just like debt after debt. But I'm not looking at what I'm doing now. I'm looking at what's going to happen later, how this can grow, how this, you know, because one thing I loved about social media so far, there's a lot of bad things about it, but there's also, it's like a knife, right? Social media is like a knife. I could use it to cook you an amazing meal, or I could use it to create harm, right? And with social media, I've been getting back a lot of, dude, you're inspired me. I can't believe it. Like, you're just, you know, you're struggling like I am, but somehow you're making this happen. And it just, things will happen at the right time. When you're putting in your effort, they're going to work out. It might not work out the way you want it to, but something's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, so I'm here. The big secret is the reveal is I'm in KFOX14 in El Paso, Texas, and this is really, really exciting. So let's see what happens. I'm here in the ARC studio and I'm having lots of fun getting a tour, looking around. So much fun and so much love here in El Paso. So thank you once again, Texas. And it's a dream. If you look around, the Neko. All right, so we're in front of KFOX14 and we're heading out now. So now we're going to take a nice little long break and then start up again at the end of this month where I'm going off to Connecticut. So I'll see you guys on the road.